just kind of went.
In a confusing time,
They call us Generation Xers, but we were just lost.
a dark new visionary
Sometimes he has the plan that everyone in the video is going to die.
and one disturbing music video
I wanted to make the greatest video ever made.
would launch a music revolution
We were hoping that underground values would affect the mainstream.
and introduce the voice of a new generation.
You realize the impact that he made on people. I mean, it was just overwhelming.
Smells Like Teen Spirit in the video. People will still be watching 50, 100 years from now.
Now, a video that rocked the world. Smells Like Teen Spirit.
The early 90s, huge contrast with the 80s. The 80s was the generation of Wall Street. Big money, big hairstyles.
You're talking about the end of Bush 1. You're talking about the first Iraq War.
Yellow Lamborghinis, spending a lot of money and climbing the corporate ladder.
And the early 90s was a little different. The economy was terrible. Unemployment was over 7%, which is really, really high.
Kids were coming out of college extremely well educated, and they were not able to get jobs. It really created a generation of kids who were disenfranchised and disillusioned.
If you believe what they were writing in Time magazine, at the time there was a lot of alienation and the sense that your future wasn't going to be as bright as your parents.
They call us Generation Xers, but we were just lost. We were scared is what it was.
The time was right for a musical revolution.
We wanted a music that was a little bit more important and a little bit more substantive. You know, the world was kind of going to hell all around us, and listening to Poison didn't feel right anymore.
It felt like it was us against them, you know?
Mainstream media, they're saying things you don't care for. Then Nirvana came, and that's when it just blew the top off it.
In the summer of 1990, the Seattle-based indie band Nirvana inked a major deal with Geffen Records' DGC label. But even after they'd recorded their big label debut, Nevermind, the band was still struggling just to keep a roof overhead.
After they recorded the Nevermind album, Kurt returned to his apartment, and he'd been evicted for not paying his rent. He ends up sleeping in his car for the next 2 or 3 weeks because he has no place to live. So he was desperately poor, and the money really mattered.
And given the state of pop music at the time, Geffen was hardly ready to gamble it all on an unproven indie band.
The record company only pressed like 35,000 copies of the album when it first came out. So there weren't too many high expectations.
In 1991, what was going on in music was the tail end of the hair bands. You know, the spandex and the hairspray, and that's what music video was all about.
There was a whole lot of Michael Bolton and Whitney Houston.
Michael Jackson was #1, and MC Hammer sold 10 million records.
Nirvana would make a statement with their first video. Their debut would be dark, raw, and unprecedented. They chose Smells Like Teen Spirit, a signature song with a somewhat ironic backstory.
Cobain wrote, recorded, and released the song not knowing that Teen Spirit was the name of a teenage girl's deodorant.
The story that I understood was that Kurt was kind of famous for not bathing very often.
Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill was joking around with him one day.
She scrawled on a wall somewhere like lipstick or something like that, Kurt smells like Teen Spirit.
Which he loved, but he was like, yeah, I smell like Teen Spirit, awesome, that's cool.
We were excited to make the Smells Like Teen Spirit video. Kurt was completely excited to make a video.
I think I was 21 or 22 years old, so I was like a kid, you know? And I was nervous. I just wanted to do good.
Kurt, he wanted to have this video where the kids were riding, the school just goes nuts.
This video was conceptualized by Cobain so many times. If you go through his journals, you'll see he's actually sketching out the plan for this video long before they make it. Sometimes he has the plan that, like, everyone in the video is going to die.
It was the first thing I ever directed. Never directed anything before.
I honestly didn't know that was the first time he'd made a video.
Nirvana referenced this movie called Rock and Roll High School with the Ramones, and the movie with Matt Dillon called Over the Edge from 1979.
Over the Edge features some kids who barricade all the parents into the school and set the school on fire.
The band had played a show at the Roxy a couple nights before and had announced, to the crowd there to come to the video shoot. And Kurt and I spoke, and I told him I'd be there, and he was excited. He had a big fear of signing to the major label and doing the big budget video and selling out and losing the fans that got him to where he was.
The Smells Like Teen Spirit video was actually shot in a soundstage in Culver City, California. And it was just made up to look like a high school gymnasium.
I was gonna go to a real high school, but it was like money stuff. It was a $25,000 video compared to the last video I did, which was Justin Timberlake, which was $1.5 million. I got something in my head, like if I just put some bleachers over here, if I make it a surreal looking school, kind of like a nightmare. If you look at Rock and Roll High School, it's an exploitive, cheap looking punk movie. And I think that's what Kurt and the guys wanted it. And I wanted to make the greatest video ever made.
With a rookie director and barely any money, Nirvana began their debut video shoot with the odds stacked against them.
Kurt wanted something like Rock and Roll High School. I think my thing was more like I have Dante's Inferno. I was the bad guy. I was the guy that had to tell them what to do. I didn't get along with Kurt. He didn't want to perform the video. He didn't want to be told what to do.
Sam's vision was that all these kids that came, we were supposed to be dressed as different types of people. It was supposed to be jocks, be nerds, geeks, and nobody showed up like that because we were all Nirvana fans. So tension kind of started early on.
I had the idea, I go, well, why don't we have like the cheerleaders? They'll be cheerleaders, but they'll have Anarchy A's on their shirts. So that's a whole nod to the punk rock sensibility.
Kurt's original idea was to have them all be punk rockers from the start.
Originally, we wanted L7 to be the cheerleaders. That was our idea.
Which didn't look like the girls that I had. So that was one of the issues that we had.
So instead, I think they got porn stars, which kind of wasn't really the vibe we were going for.
I brought in flame bars. I need a pyrotechnics expert.
When I saw the flames, I just felt like we were in Spinal Tap. It was a little weird.
We had to tell Kurt, be careful, there's flames here, stay away from the fire. And as soon as we lit the flame bars up, he lit his cigarette off the flame bars. And, he was a rebel.
The central figure in the video, in Kurt's mind, was the janitor. Kurt Cobain dropped out of high school, and the only job he could find was as a janitor at the same high school he dropped out of. You imagine the shame of what it must have been like for him. It's kind of a little screw you to all the people he went to high school with.
And the janitor was the janitor in my apartment complex, and I think we paid him $150 to come down and mosh to the music.
Poor guy probably hated the song. It didn't seem like it was his vibe at all.
The thing about that video shoot was that these kids were really, really bored. They were sitting around all day watching the same song being played over and over, and they're getting really, really restless.
There was so much tension in that room, and that negative energy that was coming at us from Sam. By the time they rolled the camera, we just burst out and went nuts.
There was a little bit of chaos. And poor Sam, having to be that guy with the bullhorn. Fucking cool it!
I think it just kind of, everybody got just kind of, had to let her rip.
The end of the video is the kids really destroying the set. 11 o'clock on a Saturday night with a record company, a band that doesn't want to be there anymore, with kids that aren't being paid, that don't want to be there. And they said, can we destroy the set? And I'm like, fine, do it. What do I care? Destroy the set. Kurt loved it. The band loved it. It's like, this is what they, it's like, this is anarchy. This isn't fake.
But even after the shoot wrapped, Kurt and Sam's power struggle continued.
The editing of the video did not go smoothly.
There was a recut, There was things in it that Kurt, he preferred.
One of the things he did was he put a big close-up of his own face right towards the end. Throughout the film, he's got his hair in his eyes, he's leaning over, and you can kind of not really see what he looks like. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's his face.
I mean, look, God bless Kurt Cobain. He made some decisions at the end of that video that made the video what it is.
That close-up at the end kind of makes it helped make him a superstar.
An antagonism between me and him, and it's why it's a cool video. It's why the video has a quality to it that doesn't look like anything else. Because he really was angry, intense, not wanting to be there. The kids really did destroy the set. Janitor was really a janitor, you know. It was all those little elements, you know, in retrospect, you know, if you had a couple $1 million and I had to do it again, I probably couldn't do it again.
Nirvana's haunting masterpiece was ready for the world. On September 14th, 1991, it appeared, and a new revolution had begun.
I remember being on tour and seeing it on television for the first time. We were lying in bed watching TV and the video came on. And we just got the rooming list and started calling everybody, the video's on TV, the video's on TV. Once that thing hit the air, everything just kind of went.
I definitely remember seeing the video and being like, I wish that would happen in my school.
Any kid at least once in their high school career imagines just tearing the school apart. I felt that way almost every day I went to high school.
And that video summed up just everything that Nirvana and grunge was all about. It was anti-pop, anti-commercialism.
And in our idealism, we were hoping that underground values would affect the mainstream. And so we basically were on a mission.
1991, Kurt Cobain, Chris Novoselic, Dave Grohl, Nirvana, a little-known grunge band from outside Seattle. The group takes the stage at England's Reading Music Festival a month before their album Nevermind is released. What happens? Nirvana captures and inspires a profound change in youth culture. It even smells like revolution.
Well, it was incredible. To be asked to go on tour by a band like Sonic Youth was like a dream come true.
Kim, Steve, Thurston.
You guys were really neat. You know, it was like, wow, what an honor, you know.
Oh, it was insane. It was one big drunken blur is what it was. We were the opening band, so we only had to play for 40 minutes a night. God, it was just a nutty tour.
One of the first shows we played with them was at the Reading Festival.
We have a special guest. He's an interpretive dancer.
We were booked in clubs that held maybe 400 or 500 people. If that, some of the places held 60 or 70 people.
And to walk out on stage in front of that many people and to realize that that many people like this kind of music, it was just like, wow, where have we been?
No reason! No reason! No reason!
It was almost a revolution in a way, you know? There was just a feeling in the air, you know? There was just like this new thing happening and no one could quite pinpoint it, but we knew that we were a part of it, you know?
You couldn't deny the power of that music. The intensity, the power. It was just an amazing experience.
People could look up and say, wow, I've been waiting for this for years and years, and finally, here it is. When they came together, they were more than the sum of their parts. Dave was a phenomenal drummer, and you know, Chris was a great, great bass player. And they were led by a guy who was a wonderful singer, a great guitar player. And that was just one of those magic moments.
What's wrong with a band that has good music like Sonic Youth and Dinosaur Jr. to be readily available to people to buy, like totally promoted instead of most of the garbage that's out there?
The Reading Festival helped make grunge happen.
The corporate ogres prevailed, as we are a testimony to that.
Everything just kind of went.
In a confusing time.
They call us Generation Xers, but we were just lost.
A dark new visionary.
Sometimes he has the plan that everyone in the video is going to die.
And one disturbing music video
I wanted to make the greatest video ever made.
would launch a music revolution
We were hoping that underground values would affect the mainstream.
and introduce the voice of a new generation.
You realize the impact that he made on people. I mean, it was just overwhelming.
Smells Like Teen Spirit in the video. People will still be watching 50, 100 years from now.
Now, a video that rocked the world. Smells Like Teen Spirit.
The early 90s, huge contrast with the 80s. The 80s was the generation of Wall Street. Big money, big hairstyles.
You're talking about the end of Bush 1. You're talking about the first Iraq War.
Yellow Lamborghinis, spending a lot of money and climbing the corporate ladder.
And the early 90s was a little different. The economy was terrible. Unemployment was over 7%, which is really, really high.
Kids were coming out of college extremely well educated, and they were not able to get jobs. It really created a generation of kids who were disenfranchised and disillusioned.
If you believe what they were writing in Time magazine, at the time there was a lot of alienation and the sense that your future wasn't going to be as bright as your parents.
They call us Generation Xers, but we were just lost. We were scared is what it was.
The time was right for a musical revolution.
We wanted a music that was a little bit more important and a little bit more substantive. You know, the world was kind of going to hell all around us, and listening to Poison didn't feel right anymore.
It felt like it was us against them, you know?
Mainstream media, they're saying things you don't care for. And then Nirvana came, and that's when it just blew the top off it.
In the summer of 1990, the Seattle-based indie band Nirvana inked a major deal with Geffen Records' DGC label. But even after they'd recorded their big label debut, Nevermind, the band was still struggling just to keep a roof overhead.
After they recorded the Nevermind album, Kurt returned to his apartment.